This is Viva Fry.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall.
This is JP Sears.
Hi, this is Frank Peretti.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Well, I tell you what, I hope everybody's doing okay on your side of things. I don't know if I threw my back out or what, but I tell you what, as I'm recording this, my lower back is killing me. So it's been a bang-up start to this week on the old on this side of things. So I am down and out right now. Well, I guess I'm sitting right now, but certainly it has been a rough day of a little bit of back pain. So that's fun. That's a new one. Is this 40? Is this what happens as you close in on 40? Tell me, like, I haven't had anything like this, and now all of a sudden this happens. I'm like, come on, I'm not drinking, feel like I'm exercising enough, and whammo. Anyways, my lower back is very sore. There's the personal note to the podcast. Good morning, all. Happy Tuesday. Silver and gold, have you been paying attention to the prices on that? Holy Dinah. They are going up and up and up. And if you're looking to buy anything precious metal, down in the show notes, of course, you can contact Grahame. He has he can answer any of the questions you have around buying, selling, storing, or using your retirement accounts to invest in precious metals. You can go to silvergoldbull.ca or .com, and just remember to reference the Shaun Newman podcast. Profit River. Okay, we got some things coming up with Profit River. October 25th is their Customer Appreciation Day. It sounds like Terry Bryant, Alberta's Chief Firearms Officer, is going to be in town, as well as Rod Giltaca, both in Lloydminster at Profit River's Customer Appreciation Day. And then October 26th, we're shooting guns with Giltaca, Prodnick, Sinclair at the Lloydminster and District Fish and Game Association Indoor Range. And the reason why that comes up under Profit is Profit River is supplying the ammo for that. So if you're interested in shooting some guns, shoot me a text. If you're around for the Customer Appreciation Day, October 25th, make sure to stop in and say hello. Any purchases, make sure to use the coupon code SNP. That gets you in for monthly draws. And just remember to visit profitriver.com. They are the major retailers of firearms, optics, and accessories. They serve all of Canada. RecTech Power Products. For over 20 years, RecTech Power Products has been committed to excellence in the power sports industry. Stop in if you're heading in for, I don't know, Profit River's Customer Appreciation Day. You should maybe stop in at RecTech. They're open Monday through Saturday, and their showroom has it all, from Lund fishing boats to Alberta aluminum-built trailers, quads, side-by-sides, lawnmowers, golf carts. The list goes on, folks. And I guess as the fall season is going along, you could be in, the mode for a snowmobile. It's all in there. Stop in today or visit them at rectechpowerproducts.com. When you're busy and growing a business, trying to stay on top of the ever-changing world of information tech, well, it can be overwhelming to say the least, and the PlanetCom wants to take care of that for you, leaving you to do your thing while they do theirs. For over 22 years, PlanetCom has been here to boost your productivity by proactively managing every aspect of your IT infrastructure, both in the house and in the cloud, to ensure you're not too tangled up in technology to get anything done. If you want to see their handiwork, go to theshaunNewmanPodcast.com and see what they created. They've been good on the security end of it as well. As you know, I lost a website, and it is now a Chinese gambling website, so that's been fun. For everything PlanetCom, go to planetcom.ca, and they can get all your IT infrastructure squared away. Some notes coming up. October 14th here in Lloydminster, the Health Charter Tour, the world's greatest health show, is in town. Sean Buckley as at the Legacy Center, 7 p.m. For their full tour, go to nhppa.org/health charter tour. They're going all across Canada to Ottawa here in the month of October. October 18th, the Prairie Rising Forum is going to be in Regina, Saskatchewan. I'll be hosting that. I've been shoulder tapped to host that. I'm pretty excited. The guest list is pretty good. Martin Armstrong, Tom Marazzo, Wayne Peters, Tiana, Truth Seeker, Bryce Wade. The list goes on. Brett Olin's going to be in attendance. It should be a fun day. Tickets, like I say, are on sale until October 12th. Just go down the show notes. You can find that. SMP Christmas Party, December 20th. Dueling pianos backed by popular demand. If you're interested in a table, shoot me a text. Would love to have you there. The Mash Spiel coming January 17th, 2026. That's at Kalmar, just east of Leduc. You can get tickets at showpass.com/Mash Spiel. And that's just a fun weekend for the mashup community. So if you're interested in a little curling and maybe a few laughs, that'd be one for you. Quick Dick McDick is live in Lashburn, November 22nd. All the funds raised there are going to a new Lashburn playground for the elementary school. And of course, the big one I announced yesterday, or I've been chitter-chattering about here over the last week, is the Cornerstone Forum returns March 28th at the Westing Calgary Airport. Tickets going on sale soon. I tell you what, throwing my back out has not helped that along. That has slowed me up a little bit on this side. So we've been having some fun. Hopefully you're having a little bit of fun out there as well. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, X, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a review. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to share it with a friend. Now let's get on to that tale of the tape. Today's guest is widely known as the Food Professor. He's a prominent Canadian academic, researcher, and media commentator specializing in food systems. I'm talking about Sylvain Charlebois. So buckle up, here we go. Welcome to the Shaun Newman podcast. Today I'm joined by Sylvain Charlebois, the food professor.
Hello, Shaun.
Thanks for coming back on, sir.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My pleasure. Always looking forward to our chats.
Yes. Well, you find yourself in some interesting places, and when I'm following along, I'm like, that's an interesting thought. So the thing that stuck out to me where I want to begin today is here's the tweet you put out September 23rd. I spoke with a group of graduate students and faculty today. The consensus in the room was clear. They believe food companies shouldn't be allowed to make a profit, and meat consumption should be banned or at least heavily discouraged. Made for a lively debate. I doubt I changed many minds, but time well spent. Walk me through this.
So in fairness, the faculty I was in was environmental sciences at the University of Montreal. So obviously when I walked in there, and I actually love debates, I really enjoy when I'm invited on campus to talk to students and faculty. I accept the invitation all the time. And I know at times things will get a little more intellectually hostile because most people wouldn't agree with what I'm saying. And but what was disturbing during the session is that as I was talking, I mean, 5 minutes in, I could see in their faces that they were actually hearing things I was saying for the first time ever. I mean, you could tell in their faces, what? People who exist actually think that way? That's impossible. And so you can feel that you had the groupthink phenomena happening amongst themselves. They share the same data. They share the same thought. They're all like-minded, obviously, which is fine. But I mean, it really, there was some element of resistance towards what I was saying in terms of, protein democracy. I mean, I'm of the belief that I believe that consumers should have a choice. It's important that people actually have choices, and freedom is particularly important to me as a citizen, as an academic. And it's important for consumers to decide, not governments or anyone else, especially not academia. And so they were of the mind that perhaps we should ban meat consumption. Okay, that's a view, but you could tell that they were really passionate. And the fact that I actually told them that I eat meat, and by the way, in the group there was about 32 people in the room and about 20 online, and 2 of them actually ate meat of that group. So obviously, eating meat is certainly not something. I would say that the 2 people who admitted that they were eating meat had a lot of courage, because they actually have to live with them. They have to work with these people. And so, but I do think that it's symptomatic to a much broader problem on campuses. I mean, people will work with people who think the same. And frankly, when you look at politics on campuses, 95% are like-minded to the left, which is really a natural way of seeing campuses these days. There is a bit of a bias, and so if you believe in enterprises, if you believe in businesses, if you believe in market failures, really, if you understand the value and the purpose of businesses, you're clearly outnumbered on campuses. Clearly. And I've accepted that. I've been doing this for 25 years, so I'm kind of used to it.
Well, I was telling you before we started, I had two gentlemen on talking about a recent, study poll. I butcher the word that they probably use, just about whether or not people felt safe to share their opinion. And even what they pointed was shocking was even the moderates, who kind of fall, right in the middle, didn't feel comfortable sharing their thoughts in university campuses. So when you talk about there only being two meetings,
well, what's ironic, Shaun, right now is that campuses are absolutely known for creating safe places. From a DEI perspective,
yes,
so diversity, equity, inclusion, and so we've actually created governance around these issues quite a bit. Very costly governance, I might add, which is fine. I mean, absolutely, I think it's important for everyone to feel safe. But when it comes to thought, it's the same at the CBC. The famous anchor that actually left in Toronto a few months ago. That was his message. I mean, when he decided to leave the CBC, he could have said the same thing about academia. I mean, there is no diversity of thought on campuses. And if you dare say something that may not fit well with the narrative, you're going to be punished. But punishment in academia is very subtle. It's not necessarily we're going to beat you up or we're going to fail you. They cancel you. They literally cancel you. They just pretend you don't exist, because these people are all tenured. They actually work with each other for until the end of time. So it's not like you can get fired or leave or go somewhere else. Most professors wouldn't be able to get a job outside of academia. I mean, I'm being very honest here. I've worked outside of academia for 10 years before becoming an academic. And I know that the world outside of academia is pretty darn tough and competitive. Most academics wouldn't survive, and they know that. So they create this cocoon, this artificial cocoon inside academia so they can feel safe. And the one way to do that is to make sure they're surrounded by people who think like them. That's really a big problem right now in academia.
This was out in Quebec that you met with these students and faculty, correct?
Yep. In Montreal. Yeah.
Is this isolated to Quebec? Because I can hear some listeners out west going,
"Oh,
those dirty Quebecers, this is their problem," and they're so far removed from I don't know common sense and a whole bunch of things. You've been all over the country. Is this certainly the train of thinking where you're like, I don't feel safe. I think the last two gentlemen I just had on made it very clear this is across Canada when it comes to feeling safe to voice your opinion. This DEI thing is exactly like you said. If you have a diversity of thought, that's where the danger comes in. But when it comes to food consumption, is this isolated to one school in Quebec, or have you seen this elsewhere?
No, it's so just to give you your listeners an idea of who I am. So I started my career in Saskatchewan, actually. So I did 7 years. I actually started my career in Saskatchewan, was there for 7 years, really enjoyed it. Transferred over to Guelph in Ontario, was there for 7 years. And I've been at Dal for 10 years approximately. And but I've also been a visiting scholar in Austria, in China, in the US. I'm back in the US next week as well at Purdue University. So I've talked to a lot of different students and interacted with many faculties around the world. And this is not a Montreal thing. Absolutely not. I've seen the same thing elsewhere in Canada because, when you think about it, PhDs, many of them, especially social scientists, They want to become social scientists to fix issues, to fix problems, understanding them. They want to understand problems, but at some point they feel empowered to fix problems themselves. And many of them go as far as saying, you know what, we're going to save the world from itself. The world is going in the wrong direction, whether it's climate change, the economy, anything. They make it a cause. They become intellectual advocates. They don't know that they are advocates, but they are. They don't know that they are advocates because the system actually grants them authority to speak as intellectuals that are who are balanced, but they're not. They're incredibly biased, and everyone's biased, but they're incredibly biased. But that bias is actually being institutionalized, and it's not just in Montreal; it's everywhere. And that's why we're seeing presidents of universities, deans being appointed that do not resist this. And if you do resist as a dean, as a president, you will get punished. It means that you're discriminatory and you will be accused of harassment. That's as far, and of course you'll be seen as a bully. That's really what goes on campuses. So faculty who actually decide who gets to become dean and president will appoint people that will allow them to speak out without any retribution. That's the academic system.
You know, if I can go back to just people wanting to know who you are, I guess I jump right into it because you've been on the show before, but I just looked it up quick. It's been a while. It doesn't feel like a while, Sylvain, because
when's the last time we spoke?
So the last episode where it was like me and you one-on-one was back on episode 351. To give you an idea, we're on to 926 now. So
oh wow,
it has been a long time since we've had a solo. But you've been on some of the live coverage shows. You've been on a few different things. So I feel like it hasn't been that long. Like I don't know. That feels odd. But December 2nd, 2022 was when you were last on one-on-one like this. So I guess it has been a stretch. So if people want to go back and listen to the first time you've been on the podcast, episode 351. Now, the fact that this is so widespread, I just feel like it's, when you talk about it being a cocoon, it is a cocoon in universities, because I don't get the sense from the everyday person they never want to eat meat again. Like, I don't see that at all. Like, I just don't. And maybe that's my own cocoon. I don't know. But I'm like, I don't walk around and get in arguments all the time with people
let's take the carbon tax and climate change. Okay. This is a perfect case study of how academia is being weaponized to support a certain narrative pushed by Ottawa. So we're all Canadians, and the carbon tax was basically supported by a humongous intellectual machine. Stephen Guilbeault is not an idiot. He was the Minister of Environment, but he knew to make the carbon tax popular and inevitable and a must to deal with climate change, he needed academia to validate many of the things that he was trying to do. And he spent billions. I saw it. He spent billions of dollars into academia to get hundreds of academics to support his ideas through the Smart Prosperity Institute in Ottawa, through the Climate Change Institute, also that was actually based out of Bobcaygeon, Ontario. Which, if people don't know what Bobcaygeon is, it's actually in the middle of cottage country. So checks of $50 million, a $50 million check was sent to Bobcaygeon to support this institute, which is really a shell. The address is on Spadina Street in Toronto, and if you go there, there's just nothing. There's nobody there. All that money was spent to get Canadians to think that in order to solve climate change, as if you can solve it, okay, in order to solve climate change, we need to tax people to death with the carbon tax policy from farm gate to plate. That's exactly, so academia is a disciple to what Ottawa is trying to do. Now, I'm not saying that under the Conservatives it wouldn't have happened, but that's exactly what has happened since 2015. Because before, during the Harper years, I would say that probably I saw some of that, but not to the extent of what I saw with the Liberals. It was just out of control.
We might disagree. I might call him an idiot, and I just might add in he's a clever idiot, right? I mean, you don't have to say that. I could say that. I'm sitting out here watching all the things.
I'm trying to be as objective as possible.
No, I know.
But
I know.
appreciate your point of view.
I just, to me, one of the things I've seen out of this Liberal government is how much money they put into these ideas of saving the world. And okay, climate change, sure. This idea of meat consumption, whether or not we need that, right, is just, those are strange ideas to me. Like,
oh, they are.
I'm just like, that actually doesn't make any sense. And yet, when you talk about the amount of money spent on it to reinforce it, that is not surprising, but unnerving. Like, it's just very unnerving that is the direction our government has taken, even though I've watched it and witnessed it. I just look at you and I see a guy that's kind of boots on the ground. I don't know if that's the right way to, but you're constantly out there talking to people and getting into rooms that maybe some of us don't get into, to have to see that look on the face of they don't even realize people think like this. That to me is wild.
Well, my job, I mean, I try to stay honest. As an academic, I'm pretty self-aware that I'm spoiled, and I make a pretty good living, and I could make a good living doing nothing, really. Just teach, publish a couple of papers a year, and that's it. But it's just, I'm paid by taxpayers here. I need to be honest, and businesses keep me honest. I actually meet, just this week, I was in Toronto meeting with CEOs. Why? Because they tell me things. They tell me things, and they tell me exactly what's hurting their business, what policy is hurting their business, and what's helping. And of course, a lot of things I hear I can't disclose, but it fuels my work. It fuels our work as a lab. And so everything we do at the lab is not only for policymakers, but it's for businesses as well. Because I firmly believe that what makes Canada so great as a country is our businesses, our food companies, our farmers, processors, distributors, retailers, restaurants, you name it. The entire ecosystem, food ecosystem, is incredibly important. And they're all voiceless. They don't have a voice. So they come to me. They come to me and says, Sylvain, we need your help. And so I try to help as much as I can. But I mean, I'm just one. We're just a lab. And it's been incredibly tough to battle it out with not only adversaries politically, but with academics. I mean, whenever I actually go out with a paper, I get it published in a prestigious journal, like high-ranking journal, I get clobbered by colleagues on campuses saying Sylvain Charlebois he's rogue. He doesn't know what he's talking about. They actually destroy my methodology without recognizing some of my limitations, and they basically spin all the work in a way that it's discredited. And I don't do that to them. So I expect them not to do it to me, but they do it because they believe that the right is evil. And, I don't want to make reference to Charlie Kirk and what happened, what's the unfortunate thing that happened to him, but
it's hard not to.
I mean, seriously, that's the problem with the left. The left will go after reputations, will go after people, and will see them as evil, who need to be destroyed. Those voices need to be destroyed. Whereas on the right, I try to respect other point of views, and I'm not out there to destroy them, to discredit them. They have a point of view, like I did at the University of Montreal. I stood up. I talked to people. They didn't agree with me, but I respected them. I respected their point of view. That's really what happens. They may not feel the same towards me. They probably feel I shouldn't exist. And that is a problem.
That's a scary problem.
It's a scary problem. Of course it is. Yeah. How can you possibly have a debate when The person on the
You
other side
shouldn't
thinks,
exist. Get out of here. Go like what?
seriously, if you know, a debate can only happen if both respect each other. And both believes that the other point of view makes their own point of view even more, like, you want the other side to push you so you can actually work on a solid argument to make it even stronger. I need the left. I need my colleagues to push me to argue even better, more effectively my thoughts. That's what debating is all about. They don't see it that way. How dare you actually believe that the carbon tax is a bad idea? Like, are you against the planet? You want the planet to be destroyed? That's how they think. They think that way. Same as the Buy Canadian situation or the anti-American sentiment right now. If you criticize the Elbows Up campaign or anything related to patriotism in Canada, you hate Canada. You're labeled as someone who actually hates your country. How is that possible? Shouldn't it be the opposite? If you're criticizing people that are pushing the Elbows Up campaign, isn't that because you actually care about Canada? I would say so.
Yeah, well, I guess in the last month and change, I've come to realize you're not debate, and I've probably known this for some time, but you're not debating statistics and like reality and like, well, here's what the numbers are saying. That doesn't make any sense. You're debating this higher calling, this ideology of like the planet will burn if we don't stop eating meat, driving cars. I don't know. You can rattle off probably 50 other things I'm not even touching on. And so they just to me, when I see it, it's just like, nope, not interested in your stats. We already got the big stat, and we're going to die here in 5 years.
Or
if we don't change
if you have stats, it's skewed and it's wrong.
Yeah, but that's the ideology, the rationale. No, that can't be right. It's and I don't want to go look into it, and I don't know. I have a hard time at understanding that viewpoint at times. Why they're so ideologically locked in that they will not move, because it's if you go out and just start, it can shatter your worldview, and their worldview looks like we're destroying the world. That almost full stop. But you can add in how we're destroying the world, but overall, it's like, if we don't do this, we're all going to burn a horrible death.
And as an academic, I mean, I've been wrong actually before. Not often, but I've been wrong. For example, the foreign workers program that we're talking about right now, I'm against the minimum wage. I've always been against the minimum wage. I actually think that the minimum wage actually destroys jobs. I've always believed that. But the foreign worker program makes me doubt about my position on the minimum wage, because we're paying people a certain amount, and we're basically encouraging restaurant operators and businesses to recruit internationally. And now what we have here in Canada is a crop of young Canadians desperately looking for jobs. And so I do question some of the things that I've thought over the last 25 years, and some of it I'm still pretty solid, and I'm comfortable with.
On the minimum wage, maybe you can enlighten me today.
Yeah.
With the temporary foreign workers, my understanding is businesses get subsidies by going through there so that they can cover their costs against the minimum wage, right? Or maybe I'm oversimplifying that, right? If it's, I don't know, minimum wage is $23. You can fill in the facts here in 2 seconds. And they go, man, I don't know if we can afford that. If we bring in a temporary foreign worker, we get government subsidies, and actually it covers a whole bunch of that. So instead of it being 23, and once again, these aren't factual numbers, folks, Sylvain probably has them, it actually lowers it to 15 or something, because the government is going to add in a whole bunch of things we wouldn't normally get with just a Canadian citizen. Am I wrong in that train of thought?
The policy itself was flawed, but it made me think about how much we're paying these people. The market, I mean, like if you could look at Alberta, for example, Alberta is where the minimum wage is the lowest, but most people aren't paying a minimum wage because there's wealth. Wealth will actually increase salaries. I've always believed that. But the problem right now is that we're seeing a lot of companies and even universities depend on international students, depend on international labor to support what they're doing. And I do think that there's probably some limitations there that should be implemented. I'm not saying that we should stop recruiting internationally, but to go back to our discussion about academia, a part of me, so right now, as you know, a lot of universities are in financial dire straits, right? A lot of universities are losing money right now because they can't recruit internationally as much as they used to. And so my own university is running a deficit of $16 million. McGill had to let go 250 people in the last couple of months. Most universities are losing money this year because of that, because international students were like heroin to institutions. They needed that money to fund all sorts of pet projects they had, including DEI, by the way.
Yes.
But now the well is dry, forcing universities to think differently about whatever they're doing. There's a part of me that actually likes this. Why? Because all of a sudden we're going to start seeing universities being better managed. They're going to be more responsible and more transparent. Hopefully. Because like in Ontario, for example, only 2 universities are making money this year. 2, U of T and McMaster. That's it. Everyone else is losing money. So that's going to force academia to rethink how they operate, I think. And it's going to make them hopefully more fiscally responsible instead of just hiring someone for this, hiring someone for that, just because it looks good. It clicks boxes. We need to be done with clicking boxes. We need to focus on what we should be doing, training people so they can get good jobs for the marketplace.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. When you talk about international students being heroin, I think that's they built their own problem. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like
so I used to be dean, right? So when with international students, what was really the one thing that most people don't know is that we charge double tuition to international students. That double tuition stayed central. It didn't go to faculty. Faculties were delivering programs to the international students. They never got a cent. So central administrations really got to spend a lot of money on a bunch of stuff that faculties couldn't care less about. And that's why many institutions, and of course, with what we discussed earlier, seeing faculties or professors appointing deans and presidents that won't resist anything. Well, guess what happened? You gave a lot of money to presidents, so they were able to look good. It was not about making a difference in the economy, for example. It was about looking good, looking responsible, sustainable, clicking all the boxes. That's what really mattered for central administrations for many, many years. They never really focused on actual important metrics like, are institutions actually making our economy grow? Are we training the proper people for the economy? Are we listening to businesses in terms of what they need in terms of talent management? You mentioned the term talent management on campuses. People will look at you. What are you talking about? Businesses don't know how to solve problems. Businesses are the problem. Why would we listen to them? That's what you would hear on campuses.
That's ass backwards. All businesses do is solve problems.
Yes. But you say that on campuses and people will look at you like you're evil and then they cancel you. Yeah. It's beautiful. This is therapeutic, Shaun. I love it.
Well, this is a big problem. Like, this is probably a monstrous
I've been
problem.
trying to, what will it take to fix this? I mean, so
Well, I
what-
mean, nobody moves from a place of comfort. So as long as the heroin is just pumping in and they got tons of money and life is great, nothing changes. And then, just look at, I look at things like, just go back in time. When you have publicly traded companies and you put Dylan Mulvaney on a Bud Light can, doesn't matter if you love or hate Dylan Mulvaney, a brand of Bud Light doing that, they saw the repercussions. I think of Victoria's Secret and some of the choices they made, and
yeah.
they just look at their stock plummet. It's like, well, money talks. Boom, they change right away. Now, university, I would hope would be the same way as their heroin dries up and they're like, oh
So
crap,
what's
we got to change things, but it's not like a Bud Light or Anheuser-Busch or
15
any of those.
schools with the top 15 schools in the country, including Dalhousie. So what's happening right now is that you got the U15 going to the province saying we need more money. And that's when
And now the province is going to be like, you're right, you do need more money.
That's right. Some of them will challenge presidents, but that's really and I do think at some point, and I'm being incredibly harsh here towards the system, but I do think that right sizing is long overdue for universities. The future is in colleges. Colleges are actually training the people that the market actually needs, not universities. Universities should continue to exist for the research, of course. But I do think that in Canada, we have too many universities for the population that we have. I honestly, Nova Scotia, my home province, we have 11 universities for 1 million people. How is that sustainable? I mean, Saskatchewan is a good model because they have, 2. That's it. And the rule, when it comes to funding, rules are pretty clear in Saskatchewan. I used to be associate dean and dean in Saskatchewan. It was pretty clear. But in some provinces, universities have gotten fat. They're mismanaged. There's just no leadership, really. The leadership is very weak, and they're not able or willing to make really tough decisions in terms of cutting programs or looking at developing new programs that actually make sense of the marketplace.
Man, I'm like, okay. So this is a problem.
I was in Guelph when they actually tried to cut the women's studies program. Women's studies. I think the enrollment was like 5. Okay. I don't remember the exact number, but I mean, at Senate, it got so political, like women's studies. Okay. Me Too, all that stuff. And so, yeah, it was never canceled. There's always something that comes in a way preventing universities to make tough decisions. But you know why? Because universities never close. There are no real crises impacting universities. All crises you see on campus are self-inflicted, like lockouts and strikes and things like that. They can't go bankrupt. Businesses can go bankrupt. And that's why you see swift decisions, and they have to actually make quick decisions to survive.
So in your mind, seeing the problem growing not only in Canada, but as you pointed out earlier, like all across the globe with some of the thoughts going on in universities, you've had lots of time to think about this. Have you come up to any like, man, maybe that could happen? Or is it just, you got to continue to go in and debate and try and change minds and hope that things course correct?
Well, I think what needs to happen, of course, are 2 things. One, the climate has to become much more hostile towards universities. So whether it's revenues being impacted, like we're seeing with international students, for example, forcing institutions to think differently about how they manage programs, how they manage faculty and things like that, research, etc. Because right now, I mean, I can tell you, if you want grants from Ottawa, you need
Yes, you need to check out certain boxes.
Acronyms like LGBTQ, sustainability has to be all over the place. I mean, there's a language, and that's research shouldn't be that way. Research should be about discoveries and understanding. You shouldn't be forced to fit your work in a mold. That's what's happening right now. People need to know this. Tri-Council is exactly that. It's you have to fit in a mold. If you do not fit in a mold, you will not get grants. And we're talking millions of dollars. I'm part of 2 multi-institutional grants worth millions of dollars, and I still fail to see the value in any of the stuff that we're doing. We're just basically amplifying things that we were already doing with more money, and we're traveling a little bit more. How does that make sense to taxpayers? I don't know. So that's one thing. The other issue, of course, is transparency. People, Canadians, taxpayers need to know what actually is going on campuses. Kids who go to school, faculty like me, we need to tell the story. We need to say to people exactly what's going on. Because 95% of faculty members, of professors, agree what's going on. They have this sense of entitlement. They feel that they're there to save the world, remember? So how dare you actually challenge anything you do? My hope is in the student body. Students are smart people. They're not biased. They go in with the intention of getting an education. And sometimes the institution actually fails them. They need to say it. And need to feel protected. So set up ombudsmen, making sure that the environment is safe for students. That's the big challenge. Instead of making everything safe for faculty alone. It is safe for faculty. I can tell you, except perhaps
unless you talk out against it.
Or if you're a white guy. I mean, I'm like, right now, my own institution is advertising new positions, and it's clearly mentioned preference will be given to candidates from the LGBTQ community, African Canadians, blah blah blah. I couldn't get the job I have today if I were to apply for my own job right now. And I'm one of the most cited scholars in the world in my field. In the world.
So this isn't getting better anytime soon.
No, but I do. When I teach, I try to make a difference one class at a time.
Sure.
I try to create a safe environment for my students. But of course, they're influenced by other classes they take. So I'm up against that. And frankly, some of them are absolutely, they know, not all of them, but of course, some students are I'd say not brainwashed, but they're influenced by other faculties who will tell them that, Charlebois is wrong. And that's fine. But to me, it's not a matter of being wrong or right. It's a matter of understanding. Take some time to understand all points of views. To me, that's the most important thing. And you make your own mind. Critical thinking is absolutely undermined at universities. And my job as a faculty is to get students to think. If you think that, for example, if you think that we should tax food, if you think that we should regulate food retail prices, great. Let's talk about it. Let's debate about it. Let's talk about how the world would look like with a public grocer. Like a lot of people now think that Canada should have its own grocer.
Like, forgive me. I don't know who these people are, but just so I'm clear.
No, but seriously.
We should come out with a, instead of a Canadian Postal Service, a Canadian grocer.
A crown corporation
that comes up.
And retail
Do they
food.
understand that anything the government touches and runs is in the toilet right now?
Listen, Shaun, we have FCC. Farm Credit Canada, which is based out of Regina, Saskatchewan, is a crown corporation that reports into the ag minister. Okay. It's actually making money. It's making money.
Okay.
It looks good. But
All
here's the
right.
thing. Here's the story that people don't hear. FCC undermines our own banks, competes with our banks, and actually offers incredibly low rates. Our government. Now, why? And not only that, I mean, FCC, Farm Credit Canada, gives loans to dairy farmers within supply freaking management. Like, why are we actually giving that business to banks and get FCC to take on more risk and support other programs or projects or other farms or anything else? No. So it gets politicized. I mean, that's my point of view of FCC. I've been very critical of FCC, but I'm against crown corporations for anything. But people are addicted to them. They want them.
Why do students or faculty or people that I obviously do not talk to believe food companies shouldn't be allowed to make a profit?
Because it's for them, so their starting point is that food is a right.
Okay.
Food is a right. That's their starting point.
But if you go down that train of thought, then energy companies who supply heat to houses or anything like that becomes a right should never make any profit, and it should just be like, nope, we might as well just, like Canada, the government, control every last one of them, create crown corporations, and make $0 off of it, which I don't even know how that train of thinking goes. But if you do that to one industry, then you'll slowly do that to all, won't you?
I agree, absolutely. And so, look, just to be clear here, I do not think this is a good idea.
No. The question was why they.
But I think the starting point for them, and often what I find when I hear students coming in with very strong ideologies is that they see one issue in isolation. Okay, they look at one issue and they try to find a quick fix for it. And they say, you know what, this is what we need to do. But to your point, Shaun, about other sectors will arguably be impacted by a policy like that. Of course. But I think that a lot of students come in and say, listen, my problem is food affordability. And frankly, I think we all should not go to school hungry. I think we should make sure that everyone actually gets fed. Okay, fine. And how do we do that? Okay, so you and I would probably agree in saying, well, let's work on our economy. Let's grow our economy, because a prosperous economy will likely reduce the level of poverty. I'm going on a limb here.
That's a strange idea.
That's a strange idea.
Yes.
But some people are saying, well, the state has a role to play. So this is the left and the right? So a lot of people believe that the state should solve all of the problems that we have. I do not agree with that. I think governments, whenever a government or governments stay out of the way, that's when things work better. However, at times you want the state to remain involved for a variety of different reasons: trades, regulations, oversight. I've worked with the CFIA over the years, and they do good work. I mean, I think a lot of businesses do need the CFIA to do certain things, but the CFIA is actually overreaching on a lot of other different things too.
Oh man, you are full of lots between the ears, right? Like I mean that in the best possible way. Like it's almost just frustrating, because to me,
but Shaun, it's so easy. I mean, don't fall into the same trap as some of my colleagues on campuses. Many of my colleagues on campuses, most colleagues on campuses have decided, you know what, it's too much work. It's too much work to debate with people who disagree with me. It's just too much work. And they may actually prove me wrong. Why bother? I'm old. I don't have the energy. I've published. I'm revered by my students. I'm revered by the Royal Society of Canada. I've received many medals and awards. Why the heck would I actually argue with someone who disagrees with you? It's work. It's work,
but it
Shaun.
feels like we see the symptoms, and so we go address the symptoms.
That's right.
Instead of like, well, what maybe is at the root cause of that? Could we maybe get down to why the symptoms are happening? I know that's a novel idea. And try and focus on like, here's where it's stemming from. Let's go talk about that problem. But that doesn't seem to be it.
But you have to appreciate, Shaun, that there is some interpretation. I mean, a lot of people will interpret certain scenarios in many different ways, and I think you need to respect that. Yes,
I can respect that, but when you shout down, call down anyone who speaks opposite of that, that's no longer like.
We're seeing more of that,
right? And I can respect that you have an idea, but your idea only holds water if you debate said idea. Otherwise, that idea is a bunch of baloney. Like, I mean, honestly, if you can't debate your idea out and have people push against it and make it better, then what is that? That's not a solid idea.
Like this afternoon, I'm off to Ottawa, right? I'm going to be on stage talking to the Fisheries Council of Canada. I've been asked to talk about, the future of food and what's going on with consumers. And by the way, Sylvain, could you not talk about supply management, please? Yeah, that's what's going on. The government is asking me. The government is censoring me. Yep. It happened.
I don't even know if I have anything to say to this. I'm like,
I'm just telling you the truth.
I know.
I'm telling you exactly what goes on. People hire me to go on stage so that I can tell them exactly what's going on. They know that I'm pretty honest. Okay. But I'm censored a lot. And, I think it happened once about 10, 15 years ago where I went on stage. So the province of Quebec, actually, I don't use PowerPoints. They forced me to use PowerPoints because they wanted to know what the hell I'm going to say, right? So I send them PowerPoints. They change everything. They change, Sylvain, shouldn't be talking about that. You should be talking about that. And then I said, no problem. That's great. Great idea. Awesome. So I go on stage. I put a clicker on the podium and I started to talk without PowerPoints. And I said what was on my mind. I was never hired again by the province of Quebec. And I was the Ministry of Agriculture. Yeah. This is what I'm up against as an academic.
But this is what we're all up against, right? Like, I mean...
Well, now, that a lot of the things that you get in the media, a lot of the things that you get from governments is incredibly filtered, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Every time I see a report on television or I see an expert being quoted in a newspaper article, it's on purpose. It's design. There's a reason why they picked that person to make a certain comment. I see that now. It's been 25 years. And when people call me, I know exactly why they're calling me. I don't have to guess. That's what people are fed. So when they go on to social media, they think that everyone agrees with them, but they don't. And if you don't agree with the person, some people will actually revert to insults and stuff like that, but some people will stay quiet. And on campuses, well, you don't dare. You just stay quiet. I'm public, so I know that my colleagues will see my material. I write a lot. I write op-eds for Post Media, for La Presse in Montreal. And I know that they're reading my stuff and they hate it with a passion. They disagree with it. They won't tell me. They'll just cancel me. It's the easiest thing to do.
Do you see any Okay, let's see if we can't end this on a bit of a high note here. Is there do you see any parts of the country, any universities or college campuses or wherever that you see like a bit of hope? Like you're like, you know what? I've had a couple of instances where I've been wherever.
Well, I mean, I teach it. I teach in the U.S. So I taught at Texas A&M in the fall, and I'm back at Purdue in. And by the way, I mean Purdue. I'd say that there are the top 3 ag schools in the U.S. is Cornell, Purdue, and Texas A&M. So when you're invited to speak at on those campuses, it's because you've done some work. You're
Okay. Yes.
And when I talk to the students, and it's not just students, by the way, it's executives, John Deere, McDonald's. I mean, people actually working. So I'm flown in to teach to these people. I see a lot of common sense, and of course I see students, and I teach to them as well, graduate, undergraduate. They all dress up. They're all disciplined. When they present in class, they're in a suit. Imagine, Shaun, do you remember those days when students actually wore a suit? Now on campuses, they wear hoodies. My hope is to see more rigor, more professionalism on campuses. Right now, you even see profs teaching hoodies. Profs. I wear a suit, sometimes with a tie, sometimes without a tie. In 2025, I think I'm the only one left. Even the dean. Our president, Dal, skates boards to work. How is that professional? And she broke her arm. And everyone actually
can't even ride a skateboard the right way.
And everyone felt bad. Oh my God, Kim, you hurt your arm. Of course, you're skateboarding to work and you're 50 years old. Of course you're going to hurt yourself. It's just, it's a lot. There's a lot of that going on. And I'm just hoping. So I try to show.
I mean, hope. You don't build things. I mean, I'm like, we can hope. But the truth of the matter is, you're teaching in the States. There's a reason for that, right? Like, there's probably a very good reason for that. And yet, you fight the good fight.
They have a lot of money.
Sure. But they also value
but also,
things.
I do think that, I do feel in the United States, and which is ironic because in Canada, a lot of Canadians actually feel morally superior to the United States. They actually feel that they're suppressed.
We're better.
And we're better. That's not what I'm seeing. I see the opposite. You can't speak up in Canada. In the United States, people will debate you. And then we've talked about Trump in the U.S. I did talk about Trump in Texas, and a lot of people, love him to death. And they know that I don't appreciate some of his policies, but they respect me and I respect them.
Sir, thanks for coming on. Am I missing anything? I'm just like, reminds me when I have Chris Sims on way back in the day, and she'd come on and she'd rattle things off in like 3 minutes. And I'd be like, I got to go digest some of this, like I understand universities and some of the things going on there, but when you're coming on and I'm like, you've hammered it home today. And I don't know, like if there's something we've missed, Sylvain, just let me know. Cause I'm open to carrying on, but at the same time, I'm like, man alive, you've thrown a lot this morning, and I was concerned about one, and now you're like, no, this ain't one. This is like you're sitting in Saskatchewan, it's there. You're in Alberta, oh, it's there. You sitting where you think you have the greatest spot ever. Students don't think that, like or faculty certainly doesn't think that.
No, and it's all legitimized by institutions, governments. And so we're up against a lot. Absolutely. But I mean, like your podcast, my podcast, I think there is a chance for us to tell a different story.
Until C8 comes in and then, or whatever version they put. And then they look at Sylvain and they go, no, you're not talking this way. Because, I mean, you talk about how they slowly make life difficult on someone who speaks against the narrative or the norm or the social ideology that's being pushed. And it's like, well, I mean, you can just watch it. It's just, you can say it's slowly coming or quickly coming, but they're trying to find a way to silence the dissident. And I never thought of myself as a dissident, but more and more, that's the way I'm going to be labeled and pushed. And here in Canada, at least, it just looks like that is coming. I don't know if it's not a foregone conclusion by any stretch. I don't want to give up anything, but it certainly
The
seems
one
like
thing that
it's
that
coming.
your listeners need to understand that when you do a job like mine, there's a price to pay. I mean, if people go to my Wikipedia page, they'll notice that I was accused of harassment in 2018. I was accused of academic misconduct in 2020 and 2022. The institution will actually go after me for a variety of different reasons. Every single case ended up with an apology. Yeah. So they make life tough for people who are not necessarily like-minded.
No,
Yeah,
for
they think they're
certain,
evil.
for people who are definitely not like-minded.
So if you're out there not saying the things that we're hearing on campus, you're evil. We need to destroy you. We need to destroy your reputation. And so when I was accused of harassment in 2018, the first thing a faculty member who didn't like what I was doing went to the CBC, and that's how it got public. Because typically those cases don't get public, but because I'm on the right, I deserve to be punished, and I deserve to see my career end. That's how they think.
Yeah, well,
So when I was telling you earlier,
it's had
I
the
shouldn't
Streisand
exist.
effect for you, at least for where I look at it, because when you talk about going to the CBC and trying to publicly shame you, I look at that and I'm like, who is this guy? We should probably bring him on, because there's something that
But
they
they'll care
don't like.
about so they'll care about accusations, and as you know, once you're accused, you are done. But they don't really pay attention to the apologies. It's not important. So, I mean, every single time I was accused of something, it ended up with an institutional apology, a letter, but that never gets published.
Appreciate you coming on and doing this. I promise we won't make it, 3 years out until you come back on. But
Anytime, Shaun.
if anybody's wanting to follow you on X, it's Food Professor. That's all they got to search out, and they can find all your travels and adventures and some of the things you're talking about. It's always fascinating to see where you're at the next time. But appreciate you coming on and talking a bit about this. And until the next time.